Hello and welcome. I'm Reshma Shah, a pediatrician, an award-winning author, a mom, and a home cook. And today I'm going to share a simple dinner that you can make even on the busiest of weeknights. My curried red lentil soup is packed with protein, fiber, and so much flavor. Because red lentils cook very quickly, you can have dinner ready in just about 30 minutes. This is my go-to meal when I want something warm and satisfying, but I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. This curried red lentil soup is inspired by a traditional Indian dal. The preparation technique is a little different, but I'm going to use some of the same spices that go into many traditional dal recipes. And today I want to share something really special with you, which is my Masala dabba, which is a traditional Indian spice box. The specific spices that go into a masala dabba are going to vary from family to family, and you usually put the spices that are used most often for the types of foods that you cook. And I want to show you what's in my masala dabba. So you can see that the masala dabba holds a variety of spices, and I want to give you a little bit of a tour of what's in my masala dabba. I've got some ground turmeric. This is ground red chili powder. This is a combination of ground cumin and ground coriander, some whole black mustard seeds, whole cumin seeds, and whole cloves. In the middle is actually my favorite thing in my spice box, which is my mom's homemade garam masala. Maybe one day I'll have her on to show us all how she makes it. And I'm going to use pretty much all of these spices except for the whole cloves and the black mustard seeds for this curried red lentil soup. This recipe follows my basic format for many of the soups I make. I usually start by sauteing aromatics and vegetables together. Then I like to add spices and a plant-based protein. And with soups, it's usually some sort of a bean or lentil. Sometimes I'll add a starch or a grain like potatoes or barley, with the optional addition of greens if it goes with the recipe. And to finish, I like to add a little bit of acid like lemon juice or vinegar if needed, and fresh herbs if I have them on hand. For most of my meals, I like to make sure that I have a plant-based source of protein, vegetables, and a grain or starch. So if my soup is missing one or more of these components, I try to round it out with the rest of the meal. So for instance, today's curried red lentil soup doesn't have a lot of vegetables or a grain, so I'm going to serve it with a simple roasted cauliflower and toasted store-bought naan. To make the soup, I'm going to start by prepping some of my ingredients. I've got 1 small onion diced, 2 cloves of garlic minced, and about a tablespoon of minced ginger. Onion, garlic, and ginger. It's the holy trinity of Indian cooking. For this recipe, my spices are pretty much going in at the same time, and it's going to come together so quickly, and I don't want my spices to burn, so I'm actually going to portion out all of my spices into a little bowl so I can put them in at the same time. I'm using 1 teaspoon of my ground cumin and coriander combination. If you don't have this cumin and coriander combination, you can just use 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. About a teaspoon of garam masala, about half a teaspoon of ground turmeric, about a quarter to half a teaspoon of ground chili powder, depending on how spicy you like it, and a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to warm about a tablespoon of olive oil in a medium-sized pot. Next, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of whole cumin seeds and warm them for about a minute or two until you can hear the sizzling sound. They should be fragrant but not burn. And now I'm adding the onion, and I'll saute until it's golden brown for about 5 minutes. Next, in goes the ginger and garlic, and saute for another minute or so until it's fragrant. Next, I'm going to add in all of our spices, including the ground cumin and coriander combination, the garam masala, turmeric, and ground red chili powder. You could also use crushed red pepper flakes if you don't have it, but the chili powder will give the soup a nice color. Additionally, 1 teaspoon of salt and freshly ground black pepper. And you want to be really careful not to burn the spices here, so just about 30 seconds or so. Next, I'm going to add 1 cup of red lentils and a quart of vegetable broth plus 2 cups of water. You could use all broth, but the broth I'm using comes in a 4-cup container, and I didn't want to open up another quart container. Additionally, if you don't have any broth on hand, you could also just use 6 cups of water. Bring this to a boil and then lower the heat to simmer until the lentils are cooked through. So while my soup is simmering, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my cauliflower. And my favorite way of preparing cauliflower is to take off the outside leaves, to slice off the little stem, and then just use a knife to break down the florets. And then you can chop up the florets into whatever size pieces you'd like. And I'll just transfer the florets to a baking sheet. I'll drizzle that with a little bit of olive oil, sprinkle with some coarse salt, and some freshly ground black pepper. And just toss that to combine. I'll roast this in a 400-degree oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, and by that time, my soup should be done. Okay, so my soup has been simmering away. My cauliflower is roasting in the oven, and I just want to show you, when you cook red lentils, they sort of lose the red color and they turn into this really beautiful golden color, and that's also from some of the spices that we included. Whenever I can, I like to add greens to my soups. Sometimes it may not work, like with a tomato soup or a creamy soup, but for most lentil or bean-based soups, it works quite well. It adds a bit of color and some extra nutrition. I'm using spinach today, which will only take a couple of minutes to wilt, but if you're using a heartier green like kale or collards, it'll take a bit longer to cook. Simmer until the greens have wilted down. I'm going to finish with a fresh squeeze of the juice of half a lemon. And there it is, dinner ready in just about 30 minutes. We've got our curried red lentil soup with simple roasted cauliflower and some store-bought naan. Okay, I know that I say this about pretty much all of my recipes, but it's so delicious and you really should give it a try. It's hearty, it's satisfying, and full of so much flavor from all of the spices and the brightness from the lemon juice and the freshness from the cilantro at the end. And the whole thing came together in just about 30 minutes. Thanks so much for joining me. If you have questions or suggestions for future videos, make sure to leave them in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more plant-based recipes as well as cooking and nutrition tips, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.